Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive with Learn Fun English.
Hi there.
Today we're tackling a question that I know a lot of you have. How to learn English independently.
Right, a lot of people are looking for tips and advice on self-study.
That's why we've been digging into some excellent resources from Fluency and Preply.
Both experts in the world of language learning.
Absolutely. And we've got some really interesting insights to share with you today.
Ready to get started?
Definitely. So let's jump right in. One thing that really stood out to me in both articles is the emphasis on structure, even when you're learning on your own.
Yeah, it can be tempting to think that independent learning means just, doing whatever you feel like whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, just kind of winging it.
Exactly.
But both Fluency and Preply really stress the importance of having a roadmap, a clear plan of attack.
Like a strategy, a plan.
Yes. Fluency actually recommends using the SMART Goals framework, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So it's not just about saying, I want to be fluent in English.
It's got to be more focused than that.
Right. It's about breaking that down into smaller, more manageable goals. Like, I want to learn 10 new vocabulary words related to travel this week. Or I want to be able to understand a 5-minute news clip in English without subtitles by the end of the month.
Those are great examples.
And Preply really emphasizes the importance of consistency. They say that even if you can only spare 15 minutes a day, building that daily habit is more effective than sporadic bursts of studying.
Absolutely. Consistency over intensity, right?
Exactly. It's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't just run once a month and expect to cross the finish line.
Definitely not.
You need to be consistent with your training.
Right. Regular practice is key.
So we've got our goals and we're being consistent. Now, what are some fun ways to actually make English a part of our daily lives? Fluency had a fun suggestion: labeling everyday objects around the house with their English names.
Oh, I love that. It's like taking immersion to the next level.
Right. Although I can imagine it getting a little strange if you start labeling everything in the bathroom.
Maybe just stick to the basics in there.
Yeah, good point. But the idea is to constantly surround yourself with the language. Preply also recommends things like switching your phone settings to English, listening to English music and podcasts, watching movies and TV shows in English with subtitles.
Basically just making English a part of your daily routine.
Exactly. So it's not just something you do in a textbook, it's something you experience in your life.
Exactly, making English a part of your life.
Now, what's an everyday activity that you think our listeners could easily Englishify?
That's a good question. I think something as simple as changing your newsfeed to English sources could make a big difference. You're still getting your daily dose of information, but you're doing it in English.
Ooh, I like that. What about you? What's something you could Englishify in your daily routine?
Honestly, I think I could probably benefit from switching my phone settings to English. I've been meaning to do that for a while now.
Yeah, I think we all have those little things we could tweak to make English more present in our lives. But let's talk about one thing that people often struggle with when learning independently: speaking practice.
Right, that can be tricky when you're not in a classroom setting.
Exactly. But Preply cites some interesting research from the University of Michigan, showing that students who learn through conversation actually progress much faster.
It makes sense when you think about it. The more you use the language, the better you get at it.
It's not just about understanding the grammar and vocabulary, it's about actually being able to use it in real time.
Right. Fluency comes from practice.
So what are some ways to get that speaking practice if you're learning solo?
Well, Preply suggests a few things. They recommend language exchange apps like Tandem, where you can connect with native English speakers and practice your speaking skills.
That's a great idea. I've heard good things about Tandem. You can actually find someone who's learning your native language and you can help each other out.
Exactly. It's mutually beneficial.
It's a win-win.
Totally. Preply also recommends online tutoring platforms, which are great if you want a more structured approach to speaking practice. And for those who might be a little hesitant to speak with others, they even suggest talking to yourself.
Wait, what? Talking to yourself?
I know it sounds a little crazy, but hear me out. It's actually a really effective way to practice forming sentences and getting comfortable with the sounds of the language. You can literally talk about anything you want, and there's no one to judge you.
Okay, I can see the logic there. It's like a judgment-free zone for practicing your English.
Exactly.
So we've got goals, consistency, immersion, and speaking practice. Well, what about resources? Both Fluent U and PrepPlay emphasize that you don't need to break the bank to learn English.
Right, there are so many amazing free resources available these days.
Absolutely. They recommend things like YouTube channels dedicated to English learning, podcasts with transcripts, and even using platforms like Netflix for language learning.
They specifically mentioned the Jennifer ESL channel on YouTube. She has some really great videos on grammar and pronunciation.
Oh, I've heard of her. And I know a lot of people who use the language learning with Netflix extension. You can watch shows with dual subtitles in English and your native language, and you can save new words for later review.
It's a fun way to learn new vocabulary.
Definitely. And let's not forget about music. Both articles mention music as a great way to improve your listening skills and learn new vocabulary.
Music is such a powerful tool for language learning. You can pick up new phrases, learn about different accents and dialects, and even improve your pronunciation.
Plus, it's just enjoyable. What's your favorite English language band or musician?
Oh, that's a tough one. I have so many. But I'd have to say the Beatles are always a classic.
The Beatles, yeah, those are good for learning English. So we've got YouTube channels, podcasts, Netflix, music, the list goes on.
There's really no excuse not to immerse yourself in English.
Absolutely. But let's talk about a tool that's been both praised and criticized in the language learning world. Flashcards. PrepPlay has some interesting thoughts on this.
Yeah, they caution against using flashcards in isolation. They argue that it's important to learn words in context.
Right. They recommend a technique called sentence mining, where you learn entire sentences instead of just isolated words.
That way you get a better understanding of how the word is actually used.
So instead of just learning the word happy, you might learn a sentence like, she was happy to see her friend.
Exactly. You get a sense of the word's meaning and its grammatical function.
It's like seeing the word in action.
Totally. And to help narrow down the vast number of sentences out there, PrepPlay suggests focusing on the 800 most frequently used words in English.
They say that mastering these words will give you a solid foundation for understanding everyday conversations.
And for building more complex sentences as you progress.
So it's about starting with the essentials, the building blocks of the language.
Exactly. Laying a strong foundation.
And from there, you can build your vocabulary and grammar knowledge brick by brick.
Brick by brick.
It's like constructing a beautiful English language tower.
I love that analogy. Building your own tower of English fluency.
Exactly. Building your own tower of English fluency.
Okay, so we've talked about setting goals, creating a plan, finding resources. But what about motivation? How do we stay motivated and keep that learning fire burning, especially when things get tough?
Ah, yes, motivation, the fuel that keeps us going.
Exactly. Fluent U has some good advice on this.
Like what?
Well, they suggest breaking your study sessions into smaller chunks.
So instead of trying to cram everything into one long session.
Right, make it more manageable, like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there.
Bite-sized learning. I like it.
Yeah, and they also talk about using downtime for quick reviews. Like if you're waiting for the bus or standing in line at the grocery store.
You can squeeze in some quick vocabulary practice or listen to a short podcast episode.
Exactly. Those little moments can really add up.
Absolutely. And another thing Fluent U emphasizes is keeping things fresh.
So don't let your learning routine get stale. Right. Try different activities, use different resources, explore different aspects of English-speaking cultures.
Variety is the spice of life, right?
And of language learning.
Totally. So we've got our motivation sorted. But what about those moments when you hit a wall? When you feel like you're just not making any progress? Any tips for breaking through those plateaus?
Those plateaus can be frustrating. It's like you're stuck in a rut.
Exactly, like you're going nowhere.
Sometimes I find that a change of scenery can help. If you've been studying in the same place at the same time every day.
Mix it up.
Exactly. Maybe try studying in a different room or even outside. Or try studying at a different time of day.
Oh, that's a good idea. Sometimes just a little change can make a big difference.
It can really help to re-energize your learning.
Speaking of energy, let's talk about the role of technology in all of this. Both Fluent U and PrepPlay are, after all, online platforms. How do we make sure we're using technology effectively and not just getting, lost in a sea of apps and websites?
Right. Technology can be a double-edged sword. It can be incredibly helpful, but it can also be distracting.
Yeah, there are so many apps and websites out there, it can be hard to know where to start.
The key is to be selective. Choose high-quality resources that align with your learning style and goals, and then really commit to using them consistently.
So it's not about using every app out there.
Not at all. It's about finding the tools that work best for you and using them effectively.
Quality over quantity. I like that. And I think that applies to everything we've talked about today, really. Setting realistic goals, creating a structured plan, finding the right resources, embracing the ups and downs. It's all about making smart choices and finding what works best for you as an individual.
Absolutely. Language learning is a personal journey. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
So true. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you something that I think is really important, and that's the joy of language learning. It can be easy to get bogged down in the mechanics of grammar and vocabulary.
Wow.
But what about the sheer pleasure of discovering a new language, of connecting with a whole new world of culture and ideas?
Oh, absolutely. Language learning shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be an adventure.
An adventure? I love that.
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment, to play with the language. Explore different aspects of English-speaking cultures. Whether it's listening to music, watching movies, reading books, or talking to native speakers, let yourself have fun with it.
I think that's such an important message, because when you're enjoying the process, you're more likely to stick with it.
Definitely. Passion and enjoyment are key ingredients for success in language learning.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there who are learning English independently, remember to find joy in the journey. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and never stop exploring the wonderful world of the English language.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, folks, that brings us to the end of another deep dive. We hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring.
And we hope you'll join us again for our next deep dive, where we'll be exploring.
Oh, we'll keep that a surprise for now, but in the meantime,
Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode, where you'll find links to all the amazing resources we mentioned today.
and be sure to subscribe to our channel, Learn Fun English, for more deep dives into the world of language learning.
And don't be shy. Join our awesome online community. We have forums, language exchange meetups, and tons of other resources to help you on your English learning journey.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you join our community of English enthusiasts.
So come say hi and let us know what you thought of today's episode.
Until next time, keep those tongues wagging and those minds expanding. Pronunciation coach right in your ear. I love that. Shadowing, talking to yourself, joining online communities, it's all about finding what works for you and making English part of your daily life. And remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
And that confidence will just shine through in every conversation you have.
Absolutely. So whether you're just starting your English learning journey or you're a seasoned pro looking for new tips and inspiration, remember to embrace the process, celebrate those small victories, and most importantly, have fun along the way.
Well said. And remember, the journey of language learning is ongoing. There's always something new to discover, a new skill to master, a new connection to make. Embrace the challenge, enjoy the ride, and never stop exploring the wonderful world of English.
Beautifully put. And folks, if you're looking for a companion on this incredible journey, don't forget to check out the Learn Fun English community. We've got forums, language exchange meetups, tons of resources, and a whole bunch of enthusiastic learners just like you.
We'd love to have you join us.
So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your fellow English enthusiasts.
Happy learning, everyone.
Until next time, keep those tongues wagging and those minds expanding.